Hi, Lady Rose here. I'm bouncing around a little bit, I know, because my camera holder is bouncing. Anyways, I wanted to come on to YouTube here to talk to you about some tarot decks and how, not tarot decks specifically, but how to bind a tarot deck to you. A lot of people have some misunderstandings about tarot decks. So the first thing, as a master tarot reader, I will tell you that your tarot deck does become a bit of a friend and a bit of a living entity. So this is my, what I call working tarot deck. It's the Gilded deck. It's a nice, easy deck. She's worked with me for a number of years, and yes, I call her she. And you can tell, like, if I get up close here, you can see that the edges of the cards are becoming worn and that they have a nice feel to them, because I've used her probably for a little over 10 years now. I started out, I don't know if I have it here, I started out with another deck after I used the Rider-Waite for a while. I learned on the Rider-Waite, and then I went to this deck, and she's been my deck with me ever since. I just love her. Now, once in a while, I'll switch it out. But when you first get a tarot deck, well, first of all, I wanted to clear up the myth of should you be given a tarot deck or should you buy your own tarot deck? Because so many times when I teach tarot, my tarot classes, and my tarot classes are going to be available on my Patreon channel. So I highly recommend you look me up, Lady Rose, on Patreon, if you'd like some master tarot classes as well. But I digress. But when I do teach tarot lessons, or when I have clients in for tarot readings, and a lot of the clients have their own tarot decks that they use at home and whatnot, and they'll ask me questions about tarot and whatnot, they often ask, should I wait till someone gets me a deck? And, you know, is it wrong for me to buy my own deck? And I'm like, absolutely not. You do not have to wait for someone to give you a deck. If you're waiting for someone to give you a deck, you're going to be waiting a very long time. I mean, this Christmas past in 2019, I did get a lot of tarot decks. And I got a lot of oracle decks and whatnot from friends, family, Santa Claus. I was very blessed. I had a very good Christmas. But this is after, 20 plus years of being a professional tarot reader. Most people know I'm a tarot reader, so that's the go-to gift, which I'm happy to receive. I can never have too many tarot decks or oracle decks. They're kind of like potato chips. You can't have just one, right? And you'll find that people, when they buy a tarot deck, often will start buying a lot of tarot decks, right? So I got a lot of tarot decks for Christmas. And like I said, this is my working one, so she's with me all the time. But one of the ones I got was the the Tarot in Wonderland deck. Love this deck. I'll be doing a review of this deck later on, so I'll be going more into detail. But because this is a new deck, I just wanted to let people know. First of all, like I said, you don't have to wait for someone to buy it for you. This one did happen to be gifted to me, but you can buy your own tarot decks. By all means, please buy your own tarot decks. Do not wait around for gifts. Now, the thing is, tarot decks come with their own kind of energy, because a lot of people have touched this tarot deck, right? Even if it comes sealed, which mine did, there's still the manufacturers that had to touch it, and the printers and, the assemblers or whatever, right? Probably touched the deck. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they were having a great day. We don't know. Not to mention the people that, this box, whose hands this box went through how many times. Even the guy that delivered it, the Amazon delivery guy. So there's different kinds of energy on this deck. So the first thing you need to do is you need to cleanse your deck. There's a number of ways you can do that. You can do that with a smudging kind of ritual. You can do that through candle flame if you want. Be careful not to burn your cards, of course. A candle with the individual intention of being a cleansing candle. So that's part of candle magic. So you'd inscribe and bless and dress the candle and whatnot. I'm going to be going more into that in candle magic that I'm going to be doing. So you can learn how to cleanse your decks if you want to that way. You can do it with incense. You can do it with crystals. Do I have a selenite crystal here? I normally do. Yes. So I have a selenite wand here. So you can cleanse the deck with the selenite wand. or any kind of selenite that you have. I have specific wands that are made for, well, this wand is actually made for a couple different things. For cleansing, so I can cleanse myself, because the selenite is a cleansing crystal, so you can cleanse, you know, other crystals with your selenite wand. You can cleanse yourself, you can cleanse your decks, you can cleanse the area if you want, but this one is a pointed one, as you can see, so you can also use it to activate crystal grids and things like that, because a lot of people use crystal grids but don't realize you have to activate them in order to get them to have their magic sort of dispersed there. So this is my Alice in Wonderland, and like I said, I got it on Christmas Day. So what you want to do when after you've cleansed your deck, so I've named a few different ways, you can put it in the moonlight as well, on the full moon, in a windowsill. I would recommend not putting it outside because it might blow away or it might rain. So in a windowsill where it's safe, in the moonlight. You can also put it in the sunlight. You can do it in both if you want masculine, feminine energy to have cleansed the deck. So you need that time to kind of have your deck cleansed. So take the time to cleanse it. You can do it in more than one way, or you can just do it in one way, whichever way feels right for you. You'll know when you kind of, if you're picking up on the energy of the deck, that, okay, this deck is cleansed now. And this is when you start to bind it to you. So binding the deck to you makes it so that it knows it belongs to you. It knows your energy. It recognizes your energy. You'll find that when you bind it to you, it will give you more accurate readings, not only for yourself, but for your clients as well, or for friends and family if you're just dabbling. You'll also find you don't have to cleanse it as much. I wouldn't say don't cleanse it regularly, but you'll find it will let you know when it's tired. And it does get tired. It will let you know, when it's ready. You can use a pendulum to also cleanse it, but also to check and see if it's ready to do some readings. I always ask my deck before I do readings, are you ready for this reading? And most of the time she says yes. And she's saying yes here. Yep. Yeah, she's ready. She's good and ready. So she's almost always at the ready, but I take very good care of her. I shuffle her a lot too. When I was out on the festival circuit, I would spend hours shuffling her. And this does two things. One, it binds the deck to you, definitely. And the other thing too is it helps to cleanse it. It's kind of like, I say, it's like fluffing it a little bit, or petting your cat, so to speak, right? Shuffling the deck is like petting your cat. It feels good to the deck. It loosens it up. I always do a minimum of 3 shuffles before I read a client. And I do, before my first client, I always check and say, are you ready for today? I've already checked her because I've done some readings, so I knew she was going to say yes. So she's ready for a day of readings. So I shuffle her a lot, and it's like spending time with her. So shuffling is a very good thing, and this is something that you should do to bind the deck to you. So this new deck here, I've spent a lot of time already shuffling it. I've been with it about a week now, maybe no longer than that, because it was on Christmas Day that I got it. So this is the deck that I decided first to bind to me. Now you can bind more than one deck to you at a time. It is a lot of work, so I picked my favorite and I'm binding this one, and then I'm going to start on the other ones. So a binding takes 21 days, 3 weeks. So this deck is going to eat, sleep, and drink with me for 21 days. It stays with me, it comes with me, it comes to work with me, it's going to go home with me, it's going to be at my bedside with me. And this is kind of, so it's aware of your energy at all times of the day. So it knows who you are. And that it's kind of like an imprint, it's imprinting on you. And this is where it becomes kind of that living being. So it knows who you are. So it can detect when there's other energies. So this is why I'm confident in letting other people hold my deck when I'm about to do a reading. I tell them to take the deck and hold it. I don't let people shuffle anymore. I used to let people shuffle, but then people would see me doing this move and think they can do the move too. And they often can't. And then they bend my cards, or tarot decks are often a lot bigger than regular card decks, so people aren't used to the stretching of your hand that you have to do. And this is actually a fairly reasonable deck. There are bigger decks, and my hand is used to the bigness. Now when I get a playing card deck, I'm like, oh, this is so tiny. But they're not used to it, so they tend to go whoosh all over the place. So my cards end up flying, or they end up bending my cards. So I don't let anyone shuffle my deck, but I do want the deck to pick up on their energy, because then it gives a better reading for that client. But because the deck is imprinted on me, it can distinguish between the two energies. And so therefore I just get them to hold the deck now, as opposed to shuffling. Don't shuffle. You're not a shuffler. Not unless you do it all the time. And like I said, on the festival circuit, I would do it for hours at a time. Just sit there for 2 or 3 hours just shuffling cards. And with the really big decks, I mean, even I can't do the really big decks. I do the, you know, the old, oh, let's just shuffle them around like this kind of shuffle. But these decks are fairly reasonable. However, you do kind of have to get like a basketball grip, you know, like basketball guys know how to handle the basketball, and it's not a big thing for them. Just like tarot decks for me aren't a big thing, because I'm used to the size of them, right? So you want to shuffle it a lot. You want it to stay with you for 21 days. So if you're going to work, put it in your purse. It's best to put it in silk, whether it's a silk scarf or a silk bag, whatever it might be. Silk is a very protective fabric. It has an energy that repels negativity. So by dressing your deck in silk, so I don't always bring the whole big box with me. I'm just bringing the deck with me. And I have a silk bag. My friend made me a silk bag. I love skulls, so she made me this silk bag, and I carry the deck in the silk bag with me. I carry my working deck in a silk bag. So my working deck, her, and this new Alice in Wonderland deck are traveling around with me everywhere. And this one will travel with me for 21 days. And like I said, it'll be at my bedside. I don't do that with this one anymore. She just always travels with me. I'm just like, if people are like, oh, do you have your tarot deck? I'm like, yeah. Very rarely do I not. Sometimes I'll leave her at work. Sometimes I won't. Now that I have an office. But like I said, I wanted to talk about how to bind a deck to you. So you need to, like I said, for 21 days, eat, sleep, and drink with this deck. You need to shuffle her a lot. Do not do any readings with her for 21 days. That's not what it's about for 21 days, because you're binding, right? So even if you're drawing cards, that's okay to draw cards. Definitely, you know, draw a card, maybe look it up in the book, see what the book has to say about it. Drawing cards only to get to know the artwork of the card, or the energy or artwork of the deck, or the energy of each card kind of thing. Or if you want to do a random, like I'm just going to pull a card kind of thing, you can do that and just examine it, meditate on that card perhaps, see what the message in the book is, and get to know the artwork of the card. But you're not actually doing a reading, and you're not doing like, don't ever just open a box and do a reading on someone. It's going to be so off. And it can actually kind of anger the deck. So I get a lot of clients that are like, yeah, my deck doesn't seem to work for me. I can't connect with it. And one of the first things I say is, how soon after you got it did you do a reading? And a lot of times people have these, what I call angry decks, because they're mad that they got taken out of the box and they weren't loved. They were just thrown into the game. So I do cleansing. I do special ritual cleansings to actually get rid of the negativity and the anger of the deck, because sometimes it gets to the point where it's like, okay, just a regular old smudging just isn't going to do it kind of thing. I don't do the same thing for my oracle decks. It's only tarot. Tarot decks need to be bonded to you and binded to you. Oracle decks, not so much. I mean, I love my oracle decks and they definitely have a place, but I don't bind my oracle decks to me. My tarot decks I do, and that's how you do it. And once you have a tarot deck bonded to you, you'll find that, first of all, it will communicate better with you and for you. So you'll have more accurate readings. You'll pick up on energy around it as well. It can sometimes pick up energy in a room, and you'll be like, oh, this room is full of whatever kind of energy, whether it's good or bad or negative or whatever. The other thing, by it being bonded to you, and I found this time and again with this deck, and there's been many times when I've either should have lost this deck completely or parts of this deck. There's been accidents that have happened, and yet she always finds her way back to me because I know I bonded her to me. She knows who I am. She knows where I am. She can follow my energy, and she always finds her way back to me. There's been times where, like, I've done outdoor festivals and winds have picked up and suddenly cards are blown everywhere. And I know in one festival in particular, I was in tears because I was sure there was a card missing, because it was a card that was already laid out for a reading and I couldn't find it, not in the deck that was still left or around. We looked in a field that was behind where we were working and we couldn't find it. And I was in tears because I was like, oh my God, now the deck's ruined, it's missing a card. And when I said, well, let's just continue the reading. So we had this reading. And I said, we'll just continue on. We'll know that the Queen of Hearts is here, whatever it was, right? And I pick it up, and sure enough, it was the Queen of Cups or whatever that was missing. And it was just like, wow. And I've had other stories like that where it's just like how I'm missing this card, and then suddenly, randomly, it will show up. And I've had her take a walk because she was tired, but then she came right back. She is bonded to me. So you won't lose it easily. But only bond decks to you that you really want to keep for quite a while. Sometimes it's good to bind decks to you, and then maybe you find out that it's not working for you. Very rarely will that happen, especially if you're buying your own decks. I often say when you're looking for a deck and you're not sure which one you want, do what's called muscle testing. Maybe some of you already know about it. But muscle testing is where you hold the deck or hold the box. Like, say you're in a store and they won't let you open it or whatever. You hold the box to you and you watch what your body does. And say you have two different decks that you want. So I've got Anne Stokes Gothic Tarot here. Also got her for Christmas. And you hold the tarot, the Alice in Wonderland one, to you. And say you tend to go forward. Okay, so this deck is meant for me. And let's say, just for argument's sake, I'm holding this and I'm in a store and I'm choosing between these two. I can't get both. I can only get one. Okay, and I tend to go this way, backward. Okay, should I get this deck today? Yeah, ask that question and you go backward. Okay, so this isn't the deck I should get today. This is the deck I should get today, kind of thing. Now, I did this muscle testing to see which one I should bond to me first of the 3 tarot decks that I got this Christmas. And this is the one that my muscle testing said, this is the one that needs to be done first. So I was kind of glad about that because I wanted to do that one first, but I just wanted to test and make sure. So you can test and see which deck is meant for you. And which one you're probably going to connect to. So if you're buying your own decks, you're more likely to buy decks that you will connect to no matter what. If you're given a deck, it may or may not work out. And I find that. Like, I've been given decks where it's like, yeah, this is a great deck, or it's okay, kind of thing. But it's better to buy them yourself. I got gifted a lot of decks this year, but people knew kind of what I wanted as far as decks go. So it was kind of my choices. If I were to get a gift as a tarot deck, these are my choices. So people were buying for things that I already wanted anyway. So I got all the decks I wanted. And now it's just a matter of who am I binding to me first, kind of thing. So it's very important to do that, especially if you want to get accurate readings, especially if you want to be able to work with your deck on a more intimate level, because it becomes an extension of you. And that's really what your deck is supposed to do, become an extension of you. And what these are conversation starters. Conversations with yourself, conversations that your friends or family need to have, conversations with your clients, whatever it might be. Because I always say, no matter what you kind of want to ask the tarot. The tarot has a way of telling you what you need to hear as opposed to what you want to hear. And you'll get better, accurate, what you need to hear messages if you've already bonded the tarot to you. And as the reader, you become the vessel of the messages that the tarot needs to deliver to either yourself or your friends and family. So if you have any other questions about how to bind tarot decks to you or what to do when you get a new tarot deck, please feel free to put your comments in, or your questions in the comments, or come and visit me on my Facebook page, Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor, and message me there and ask me your tarot questions. I would love to provide some answers if I can for you. Thank you for watching, and happy 2020, happy new year, and good luck with all your tarot decks. Bye for now.